Happy Passover, everybody. It's Rabbi Lori Matskin here. I thought that you could help me build my Seder plate as we get ready for this holiday, starting this evening, lasting for 8 whole days. I have many props here from preschool, from the Jewish preschools that my kids have attended. And it struck me that there's this great balance in my life, and I think for all of us, between the very cute props that we get from the schools and the deep spiritual lessons of this holiday. So hopefully as we build the Seder plate together, we can remember some of the deeper teachings and start the process of becoming transformed, feeling that we ourselves are leaving Egypt as a community, as individuals, as families, and moving through the narrow, tight places. That's what Egypt means in Hebrew, the constricted, tight places, the tsuris, the tsar, surrounded by the mayim, the mem on one side and the yud mem, the mayim on the other side. We move through the narrowness of Egypt, the constriction, the frustration, the oppression, and we find a new reality. We find a new freedom on the other side for each of us and together. So help me build my Seder plate. First, of course, we have some wine. We have 4 cups of grape juice or wine, whatever you're comfortable with, for the course of the Seder. Every drinking of one of these 4 glasses, hi Janet, every one of these 4 glasses symbolizes another step out of Egypt, another step that God helped us find that freedom, find that resiliency within our own hearts, and mobilize us to get further and further from the state of oppression. So we have 4 cups, 4 children, 4 questions, lots of 4s in this Seder. So let's see, what should go on the Seder plate first? I think we should start with the matzah. So here's a beautiful matzah cover made by Hadar. It says 2018. I've got 3 pieces of gluten-free matzah here. And let's see, we've got some nice decorations underneath. Now, traditionally, we would break the middle matzah, which is already broken here. We would break it and put half of it away in the afikomen bag so that the children could find the afikomen at the end of the Seder. Now, why do we need to find the afikomen? We need Moses, our leader, to be reunited with our people. So the afikomen comes from the middle matzah, the tribe of Levi, Kohen, Yisrael, Cohen, Levi, Yisrael, the 3 matzahs. He is broken. He is taken from his home. He's taken from his family. He's put in this basket, this afikomen bag as it were, and sent to a faraway place. Not until we finish the Passover night, the Seder night, when the children bring him back and he can reunify with us, can we really move on and move to our redemption. So the afikomen goes away until the next generation finds their Moses, their leader, and brings us back together so we can move forward as a people. So let's see. Let's start with the egg. I've got a hard-boiled egg, in Hebrew a beitzah. It has a little bit of smoke burn on it. I just did it with a match this time so that it could be roasted. I could have done it in our toaster oven as well, but we're getting a new grease tray because the broiler pan has too much grease, so Cuisinart is sending us a new one. So in the meantime, we have a beitzah, an egg. Reminds me of fertility, reminds me of new life starting. Our family's been visiting some chickens down the street from us at a dentist's office, empty parking lot. So these eggs, here's the beitzah part, remind us that we can have new life, we can have new ideas, new children, new projects, even when we are in the narrows of Egypt. Let's see. Next, going around, we have the zroah. So you can take your hand. This is what we just did in our baby class, Emily. So you're getting your JFAM catch-up. We can take our arm and raise it, just like Moses raises his staff to split the sea with God's miracle, if you want to look at it in that literal way. Otherwise, it's our own strength, moving things through, moving obstacles out of the way. The zroah is also the lamb shank bone that the Israelites paint blood on their door as a kind of mezuzah marking on Seder night, so that they are passed over from the plague of death. Instead of a shank bone, I have a vegetarian-friendly Seder and also a Corona-friendly minimal shopping Seder. I have this bleeding beet. You can see it's nice and pretend bloody. Woo! So this roasted beet is going to be my zroah, my shank bone. Let's see. Next, we're going to come around to the haroset. So I made some haroset last night with just what I had, which was some beautiful Honeycrisp apples. Now, I bought some dates at our kosher market, which I'm so happy is open, Par's Market. Go check it out in San Jose. But I thought it was going to be a package of dates. It turned out to be a package of date paste. So I just spooned a little in and added it in with some grape juice, some cinnamon, and a little bit of almond butter, maple almond butter, and just put it in my Cuisinart for 2 minutes. So it kind of became this Moroccan style with the date paste haroset. So the preschool version of haroset is that this is a glue that we remember the mortar that kept the bricks together as we built these cities in Egypt. The mystical understanding is that when you smell the cinnamon, the sweet apples, all these wonderful flavors, we are reminded of the Song of Songs, of the garden, of the apple orchard, and the smells of romance. And it's taught that the only way we were able to continue through this persecution and lead to the perseverance was to say, we've got to do what's best for the next generation. We have to keep the Jewish community going. Hi, Tali. And so the smell of romance of the apple orchard is what inspired Jewish couples to procreate, to say there's more, there's a future, we're willing to bring children into this broken world. We can imagine a life outside of Egypt for them. And so this message of finding love, finding romance, finding intimacy and partnership in the apple orchard, even when we are in Egypt, is the message of the haroset. So we have some maror from last year. It just expired actually on March 29th, maybe last week, but I think it's going to work for our Seder plate. This was a cream horseradish, and we really feel, here we go, we really feel the bitterness of Egypt. The text of the Torah says, Vayimararu. The Israelites felt this bitter, oppressive labor from Pharaoh, from these Egyptian structures of oppression that were keeping us enslaved. And so maror comes from that word, that we feel the bitterness. And it's not that the haroset isn't there, but the bitterness can sometimes be overwhelming, which is also true, I think, in our time when there's so much darkness around us, just like the plague of darkness, and there's so much bitterness. We have to acknowledge it on the Seder plate alongside the symbols of springtime and redemption. Let's see. We've got our salt water over here. And I'm going to check. Oh, yes. We have our karpas, or our chatzeret. So this is my chard. I thought this would be a perfect, instead of the romaine lettuce, we're going to put this on the Seder plate. The chatzeret, sometimes there's something bitter instead of the bitter herb, or there's sometimes a spot for both, right? And in my karpas spot, I've got some leftover celery that I'm going to use the rest for the chicken noodle soup, chicken matzo ball soup, sorry. And I also have some blades of grass. So the beginning of the Passover story, we hear that Pharaoh is concerned about the Jewish people growing too fast. And he says they're growing so fast, they're kind of like grass growing like a weed. They're just growing, they're just going everywhere. There's too much. We can't control it. And I want to be able to control my population, right? So we remember this creative power that grass or weeds, that's why we use parsley, is it spreads like a weed, right? That we actually want to acknowledge that, no, there are not too many Jewish people. There are not too many people in general. We are all important. We all matter. We all can have a chance to contribute. And to bring redemption to the world. We're each needed, right? It's only an insecurity to say there's too much of a certain population. No, let's integrate together. Let's find a way for all communities to work together, and for each individual not to just to be seen as a weed, but to be seen as a potential Moses. So that leads us to this beautiful doll my mom got several years ago. And speaking of the salt water that we've got here, right, we can dip several of these items into the salt water. You can see here, this is baby Moses. Again, I told you this is sort of the preschool version going into the deep spiritual lessons. So perhaps this is the daughter of Pharaoh who takes him out of the water. She's the one who, hi Stan and June, she's the one who names him Moshe, which means to come out, to be rescued out of the water. His name is also connected with Ramses, right, the Egyptian name of the pharaoh. So we know that he's kind of the royal class because of this relationship. And so we know he was sent away. We talked about the Afikomen sending him away and that he needs to be rejoined to the community. We know that he sees his people go through backbreaking work. He sees the bitterness. He stands up and he says, let my people go, right? Let my people go. Chag Sameach, Yoni. And by the end of the Seder, he's actually transformed into Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses our teacher. Here he is. Hi, Tamara. Here he is. Here's Moshe Rabbeinu, ready with all his life experience and lessons to bring us out of Egypt. So this is this transformation that all of us can go through, right? Not just a cute doll, but we can all go from being the victim mentality, being stuck in the boat, being just taken down the river, totally reactive to whoever might find us, and find through our experiences with our senses, with our observation, with really looking for ourselves of what is going on in the world, what is unjust, what can I do about it, and become that leader. So when we were just seeing this doll in my JFam baby group, I gave the blessing that each of these little babies, and some of the moms are on here now, you should become a Moses for yourself, for your community. We hope that you see the oppression around you and you go from being little Moses in the ark, right? Or maybe the celery being dipped, right? The karpas being dipped in the salt water, right? And we hope that you become this Moses so that you too, each of us, can become the leader to go from that narrow place to a wide, fluidy, mayim, oceany expanse. So now that everybody is ready, I think we have everything on our Seder plate. We'll check the preschool chart, see what we talked about. We talked about the Haroset, yeah, and the Song of Songs and bringing back romance. We talked about the Zro'ah, my bleeding beat, which is being blocked by my other items. We talked about the Beitzah, the egg, new life, but also the sacrifice, the Passover sacrifice that was done in the temple during those times, right? There's an evolution from Torah Judaism through Rabbinic Judaism, sacrificial systems, and then moving on into our diaspora ways where we have our table symbolic of all of the historical experiences before us. And we have our maror, our horseradish sauce. Ideally, it would be a horseradish root. My husband likes to grate the horseradish fresh every year, put it in different jars, and then the family does a taste test. We have our karpas, right? The Israelites growing like these green plants or like weeds. Usually it's parsley, but we make do with what we have. I just literally picked some grass from outside to show. And what else did we miss? The chatzeret, the bitter herb. Okay, so this is an actual bitter plant. It's interesting because there was a difference between European and Mediterranean Jews and what they used, and that goes back many thousands of years. So in the colder European communities, there would be this underground root growing, the horseradish root underground, right? So that at the spring reawakening at this time in March, April, that root would be ready to pull out from the ground. A lot of the more Mediterranean places, communities, would use something that really was sprouted already because of the different climate. So that's just one interesting difference between Jewish communities around the world. So not all of us know lots of Hebrew, and some of us are fluent Hebrew speakers, but I love this little Passover book from PJ Library called Dayenu, and I want to just offer it to you so that you can even write the words down if you want, but you can make your own words too. We all know that we're working on gratitude practices, and Passover is a great time to think about where we've come and where we're going. So, you can sing with me. When the Jews came out of Egypt, that was enough to make us happy. Sing a song and show we're happy. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. When the sea was split for walking, that was enough to make us happy. Sing a song and show we're happy. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. When the Jews received the Torah, that was enough to make us happy. Sing a song and show we're happy. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. When the Jews returned to Israel, that was enough to make us happy. Sing a song, show we're happy. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Here we have a little girl sleeping at the end of the Seder. We have Grandpa and Grandma leaving. Of course, we're all stuck in our own houses. Many of us will Zoom with extended families. Some of us will just be with the people at the table, or one or two family members maybe on FaceTime. Some of us turn off all electronics for the holiday and are just totally present with the people in our home. Whatever your plan is, I hope it's beautiful. And I hope that your children or the child inside of you can find the afikomen, can find some way to see out of the situation, out of the Mitzrayim, out of the narrow places that we are in right now as a whole world. We are all Israelites going through the process of from slavery to realizing that we need to call out, to finding the right leaders, to helping us mobilize, move through, get to the sea, cross the sea, and then there's the desert. Then we have to have 40 years in the desert. But the way we'll end is by remembering that starting the second night of Passover, thanks Debbie, starting the second night of Passover, we have a practice called counting the Omer, Sfirat HaOmer. And we count 49 days, which is 7 weeks of 7 days between now and the holiday of Shavuot, which is the receiving of the Torah on Mount Sinai, receiving the 10 Commandments, receiving the wisdom of the divine, the wisdom of our tradition, the wisdom of our own learning and paying attention to that which we've learned. And we'll end with the Shema, which is the most encapsulating Jewish teaching of all. Shema Yisrael, listen, you wrestlers. Israel means wrestlers, right? Wrestling with God, Yisrael. Listen, you God wrestlers. Adonai Eloheinu. We call God Adonai, but it's the name of God for all of us. Adonai Echad. God is Echad. God is oneness. Anytime we feel one and connected to the whole, the word in Hebrew, echad, is connected to yachad, which means together. So the unity of togetherness and feeling as one, that is the lesson of Mount Sinai, the lesson of the Torah. So we have to move through all that oppression and go through that whole process until we realize that unity. So you can join me to close with the Shema today on our little mini prep Seder. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Listen, Jewish people, Adonai is our God, and everything is one. I hope that your Seder or your Passover or your week or your Easter or your springtime is full of symbolic opportunities to move from the narrows to the expansive, to move out of Egypt, and to know that Echad, we are all in this together. Thank you for helping me build my Seder plate. It was so great to see some friends tune in. And if you're watching this later, have a wonderful Pesach as well. Chag Sameach.